Big fluff.
Hello, world. It's Stephanie Cmar, and I am here to tell you that I know some shit.
Exotica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joel Murphy.
And I'm Stephanie Cmar.
And this is Stephanie Knows Some Shit,
where we go over all of the things that we think we know about, which is ironic, Joel, because today we're talking about something very abstract, but it's something that's been on my mind so much. And like Joel and I haven't really talked about why I wanted to talk about this, but I'm just going to get right into it. Is that okay?
Get into it. Yeah.
Recently, I've had this feeling in my gut that something great's going to happen. And then that has happened to me before. Like for my entire life, I feel like I've been very blessed with situations that require a yes or no answer, you know, in like every regard. And if you take a yes, your life deviates this way. If you take a no, your life goes that way. But I've never been very scared to say yes or no. Now, that being said, before everybody's like, what a hypocrite, the second after I give my answer is when I panic.
Right. We talked about this with the episode with you and Kristen. That was how you did Top Chef. That was how much thought you put into it. That's sort of
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So recently I've been sitting with this feeling because I love my job so much. My private chef job. I'm not talking about the catering aspect. I love the families that I work for as if they were my own. Like, they came to my wedding. You know what I mean? Like really, really important people to me. And I'm not talking about changing a job. I'm just talking about something fucking cool is going to happen. And as I say that, everybody, I know nothing. Like I don't have anything on the deck. I'm not like, oh, something so good is coming. I'm just doing this teaser and I'm so flirty. No. I'm going to eat some chicken after the podcast. That's sort of where I am in life.
Look, okay, I think it's clear, and I'm just going to call this out. You're the new Colonel Sanders. I think that's pretty obvious. You got it. Yep. And I think you're going to be great. So
it is a lifelong dream. I do feel most comfortable covered up to the neck. So the costume works for me. Everything's going to be great. For a second, I thought you were saying that because I'm watching David just toplessly grill.
He's topless.
I don't know what you call like a man topless.
You topless. I think you call it topless.
He's topless. He's just titties out right now.
Yeah, he's grilling.
Okay, so back to it. So recently I've been like immersing myself with this thought because we've talked about my journey to become a non-drinker. We've talked about all of these things that have happened that have been so important in life. Since quitting drinking, do you know how much time I spent drinking? Now, some of it was great. Some of it was horrible. Not even here to talk about it. But that shit took up so much time.
Yeah.
So, Joel, every time we talk, I think that I have taken on a new hobby. Like right before we started the podcast, I was watercoloring. Maybe I'm sewing. Maybe it's always crafty. I was spray painting earlier. The bracelets. Yeah. I can't stop. And I've also been listening to a lot of influential people I only know based on personalities from listening to other podcasts, like Mark Cuban. Couldn't tell you a fucking thing about him. Yeah, I can now because I've listened to so many podcasts. But his, you know, like I love listening to his compassion and empathy and also his like ability to be like, you stink, like you're the worst and don't even do that. Another person who how do I phrase this? She is not my favorite. I don't watch her shows. But Bethany Frankel is a badass when it comes to entrepreneurship. Skinny Girl Margaritas. She sold it for millions before it had even hit the shelves. Like absolutely brilliant. And so, you know, David and I talk a lot about like, we're comfortable. We have everything we could ever want, but do we have an idea that'll bring us happiness?
Right.
You know? So I guess, Joel, I just wanted to discuss with you sort of that, because as I'm embarking on a journey in life that has no car, no road, no path, no map, no GPS, I just wanted to talk about it because it's a really optimistic topic to look at the next phase of your life being half full, Which
I think have we ever talked about how we started doing this podcast on the podcast? I know that's very meta to get into, but
I would love for you to tell that story.
Because I was going to say, I feel like it is relevant to this conversation because it was a similar thing. So you and I first interacted when you did Top Chef All Stars. I just cold reached out to you for another podcast that I did because I wanted to interview you because, like all of America, I was a fan of you from Top Chef.
Joel.
You're a fan favorite. So, but so I reached out to you and we set up the interview and, the rest is history for that season. Because that was the cool thing, too, is I set it up like midway through the season, I think. And then I didn't know how you were even going to do on the season. And then I think as we were scheduling it, I remember even like the Bravo people were
they had to get involved. They were like, oh,
yeah. And I realized now looking back, I think they were getting involved because they were really worried you were going to give away like how you did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, so that was interesting. Like the Bravo people wanted to have a say. I think they listened to the interview before I posted it. Yeah. So they, but yeah, so we did that. And just like I've done a lot of interviews with people over the years, but I don't know, like I felt like there was something about when we talked that like stood out to me, like that we had a good conversation. And then I hit you up to do that ridiculous crab movie.
It was so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had you with me and Andy on Silver Linings Playback watch Simply Irresistible. And then it was
so bad. Everybody don't watch it.
But all of that to say that coming into this year, I kind of had exactly what you were talking about, which is I was in January. And again, it's been a rough few years, I think, for everybody. But like I was just like thinking about my life and my career and what I wanted to do. And I don't know where it came from, but I just had this idea. I was like, I should do a podcast with Stephanie. And I didn't really, like I said, we had those two interactions and that was pretty much it. And then I just like, I had the idea and I was like, this makes sense to me. And I ran up by Molly and she was like, yeah, why not? Like, go for it. And then I basically just pitched you on it, having absolutely no idea how you would respond to it. But it is one of those moments. And I think it's exactly what you're talking about of just having
and what do you say?
What's that?
How long did it take me to respond to you?
You were, I think I think you might have gotten back to me that day and pretty quickly we were like, I think within the week we had a phone, like a video chat set up to talk about it. And you were in from the first conversation. Exactly.
Because, and I don't want to like martyr this, but here was my thought behind the podcast. I didn't have many. I was like, I love talking. I'm obsessed with the thought, like when it comes to Instagram, when it comes to podcasts, that you're cataloging your life. You're always going to be able to look back and be like, I don't know, you're going to be able to look back. And I think that's so cool. That's why pictures are so important. I'm a terrible photographer, but I love taking pictures. But when you approached me with that idea, I immediately knew I had nothing to lose because I didn't feel any intuition that it was a terrible idea. So I said yes.
But that was it was my intuition to ask you. And what I didn't know at the time that I immediately found out when we started talking is that you love podcasts and you had
I love podcasts.
Yeah, I think that's when I was like, we're on to something, because I started talking to you and you started mentioning specific podcasts that you listened to that you were like, I want it to be like this. I like this. I don't like this. And you had your own very strong opinions. And it just, it was crazy how easily it all clicked into place.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the beauty things in life. Like, you're always given the option to say no later.
Right.
And I have been shat on for some bad decisions. But when I think about things in context and I think of all the yeses and nos that I've said, the no's always feel so different that I never become scared.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with like, at least for me, and I don't know if you feel this way, I feel like the things in my life that turned out really well were quick yeses that just immediately made sense. Like I put Molly in that category, like just like when we started dating, like that all made sense in a way that previous relationships had. And when we got our dog Jolene, that was at a mobile adoption unit at a farmer's market. They just had her. We were not planning on getting a dog that day, and she was there.
God forbid I ever show up to somewhere with a mobile adoption center.
But yeah, it was on, you know, again, we had no plans. We had to stop at a pet store on the way home to get all of the stuff because we didn't plan on getting a dog that day.
But it was serendipitous, and Jolene's the shit. She's a pug. She got some tude. She doesn't like to move very much, and I respect that.
No, yeah, she's mostly a lump. That
she's a bit of a tater.
Yes, that's a great description. She's
a bit of a tater, and she's just the cutest. And again, I don't mean I love a lot of different healings. I love a lot of meditations. I love a lot of projections, everything. And I am not trying to sway anybody on any of it. You know what I mean? Like I went to a sound bath 2 weeks ago. It was incredible.
What is a sound bath?
But I just enjoy it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So it was my friend. She's not really my friend, but I would like her to be. Her name's Ankati, and that's her birth name. So she was destined to be like a nymph fairy. And Ankati teaches yoga, but she also does like a lot of, is it Eastern or what is Western medicine?
Eastern.
Thank you. Before I mess up, tons of Eastern medicine. So a sound bowl, you've got these beautiful bowls carved out of semi-precious stones, and you have like a felt drumstick, and you bang, and then you kind of like that scene in Miss Congeniality. You know, where she's playing the wine glasses.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Now I got it.
Very, very similar to that. Now that was for meditative purposes. That was for so many different things. You know what it was for me? I got to lay on the floor with a blanket for an hour. I chewed a weed gummy. I was in heaven.
Yeah.
I was in heaven, you know, so I'm not trying to push any of that, but I do, especially having gone through like some pretty extremes with depression and anxiety, to wake up and have an optimism that something so great's going to happen is like the best feeling. And I guess, you know, as we do catalog our lives on this podcast, this was sort of a breaker, and immersing myself in all of these different sort of thought processes, whether they be super wild and analytical and entrepreneurial like Mark Cuban, or be just something as natural as our podcast. Not to say that we're not like the next Mark Cubans, but
I think we are. I think that's pretty clear.
Dude, I went to culinary school. Not to say that means anything about intellect, but I had to restart the computer 3 times before we started this podcast.
Yeah, I think you and I both don't have like the business mindset.
We're not there.
Yeah,
that's why we hire.
Yeah, we need the business guy or girl. Like, but we need the business person. Yeah.
Anybody help us?
Yeah.
You know, so that's sort of it. And I listened to another podcast that I absolutely love, and it's called How I Built This with Guy Raz. And it is all about entrepreneurs taking chances. And, you know, they go over, my favorite one was the Five Guys episode, Dave's Bread, Verizon. I'm a little subject to the food ones, but really, really cool. And he always asks at the very end of the podcast, what % is hard work and what % is luck? And just assuming that Guy has no reason to ask me for a couple years, I wanted to sit and think about that, because if you look at my career, I'm sitting in a house that I own. You know what I mean? And that to me is it doesn't matter what size it is. Doesn't matter if it's on concrete cinder blocks. It's not. But, you know, like this was my version of success. And I was reading a story about Steve Madden. And so Steve Madden is the famous shoe designer. And when he was like 23, he had just left the military and he got a job near Times Square working at a shoe factory. And so while he was at the shoe factory for 10 years, he absorbed everything he could about the business before he knew in his heart that he was going to become the Steve Madden that cloaked my feet all through high school. And he could look at a lot of things and say it was hard work. But you know what the lucky moment was?
What's that?
Walking into that shoe store and getting the job.
Yeah.
You know, and that perspective to me is so beautiful because it wasn't putting his name on the heel of a shoe. It wasn't his flagship store that was that lucky break that he got and he was on Madison Avenue and now people knew his name. His luck was walking into a shoe store.
Yeah.
And to be able to look at life in a very macro context, it's look at all of those lucky moments that you might have been like, I got a job the summer of 1988 so I could pay my rent, or I got a job in the summer of 1988 and now I do this and this is how this job helped me. You know, just perspective stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's something that I think about. I don't know if you think about things in these terms, but sometimes when you reflect on your life and you think about where you are and if you're not maybe where you want to be or where you envisioned yourself being, but then you think about it and you're like, but what would I want? And, you know, like for me, it's like, I want to be with Molly. I want to have Jolene, like all of the things of like all these little decisions where I'm like, all of those things is lined up and they all happened when I wasn't expecting it randomly. So it's like,
so isn't that luck? Right.
Exactly. All of the good things in my life have happened completely. Yeah. Just, you know, because I met Molly doing improv, you know, just kind of randomly. Right. Yeah.
Which, I mean, there's so much wrapped up in just that little sentence. Like you decided to do improv. Improv to me is one of the scariest effing things in the entire world. Like I can't imagine. Sometimes people are like lying to me and they're like, you're really funny. You should be a funny person forever. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Because the thought of not being Cat Williams, of not being that funny. Who's that funny little guy?
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. Those are the only two. I don't love stand up. I do, but not. Joey Diaz. I know. So you put yourself out there and you got yourself the fucking babe.
See, it's funny though, too, because it's like you're sitting there going like, oh, man, improv. I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, you did reality television. That to me, you know, I don't know how you did. Yeah.
And again, we can just address the elephant in the room. Is it real? Yes. I was just myself.
Yeah. But again, like, I think, yeah, when you look at your life, it again, and these are things that have like come up on previous episodes that I've learned from talking to you. But it's like the restaurant that you worked at with Kristen is why you got asked to do Top Chef. Like another restaurant job is how you met David. Like just. And
if you pull it further back, the only reason why I cook is my first job.
Yeah. So
that was my moment of luck, the muffin shop. Yeah. Which, well, I honestly, if you would ask me when I was 16 if I would still at 37 be talking about the muffin shop, I'd have been like, I don't think I would have even remembered it. But here we are. Hey, Louisa.
We have talked about the muffin in Marblehead, right?
That's in Marblehead.
Let's see.
It's my place. We catered an event there this weekend and we drove past and I waved. You know, but so I look at my life now, my private chef job, my catering career, completely hard work.
Yeah.
How I stumbled into it via my two friends who needed a chef when they were having their second baby. Luck.
Well, I think that, yeah, and maybe that's at the core of that, the question of the how I built it, you know, kind of thing, because I think it is both where, again, we could definitely say it's luck that you and I are doing this right now. We kind of cover but also it happened because I have been, you know, like running a pop culture website. I had interviewed a lot of people. Like I had done a lot of interviews and created a track record. And so it's like.
And you were also prepared for hard work.
Right. And when I had a chance to talk to you, I was ready. Like I knew how to interview someone. I didn't start out good at doing interviews or talking to people, or I didn't know how to podcast at first. So it's all that learning curve to position I think that's it. You have to level up. You had to be a good chef. You had to learn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual opportunities, it's more about being, I think, ready for them when they show up. But the actual opportunities are always going to be luck.
You know, between hard work and luck, the only other thing that really like matters in my mind is determination.
Yes.
So you can have all the luck in the world. You can work as hard as you want. With luck, you can have all the luck in the world, every position, every money. If you're not determined, you're not fulfilled. If you work incredibly hard and never have the balls to ask for a promotion,
right?
You know, like it's all about choices and when it comes to my career, I am incredibly determined to enjoy it. And that is my mission statement. Because if I don't enjoy it, Joel, I don't know if you've ever seen me not enjoy something, but it is not good.
I've heard a lot about this look that you give, but
I am a weenie about it. Oh, I get so mad. I get so mad. But determination. And I wouldn't say, but that being said, I don't consider myself competitive. I determined wouldn't be the first word that comes to mind, but I am absolutely fixated on the fact that there is a lifestyle that I've created for myself that I enjoy. There's work that I've created for myself that I enjoy. And it's only in my power to make sure I don't implode the entire thing. We just wanted to take a moment. Our dear friend, Top Chef alum, Fast Foodies, currently, Justin Sutherland was in a bad boating accident, and we wanted to highlight his GoFundMe. Like so many chefs, he does not have health insurance, which makes, even though you see him on TV, guys, does not make him the wealthiest man in the world. So we want to make sure that he is well taken care of.
So his GoFundMe, if you want to donate, we will put the link up in our show notes. We'll also put it up at stephanieknowsomeshit.com and on our Instagram. You can find the link there, and anything that I think anyone can give would help him as he recovers.
Absolutely, Joel.
I do think one of the things that you mentioned on a previous show that you're kind of talking a little bit about here too, that I really loved, I think it was on our Amateur Chef episode, but the idea of when you're working for other people too, the getting them to see you, like if you're interested in doing something else, if you're interested in getting a promotion or kind of leveling up, that a lot of times you internally might see your career going a certain way or yourself a certain way, but it's having to get other people to see that in you.
You have to advocate for yourself. And I say that not from being the person looking for the advancement. I say that being the person who advances, unless you advocate for yourself. And that was something my mom, in a very strange way, and I couldn't give you an example if my life depended on it, but she was really big on I think I'm about to make up a word, advocation. No, that sounds real. Advocation.
I think it'd be advocacy. I want to say self-advocacy. Yeah.
Self-advocacy. She also sent me through college. But you know, that, she was always really big on it. My mother taught me a few lessons, and this is a little side note, but it'll help everybody in the grand scheme of things. She taught me never have anything in writing that you will regret. Pre-Instagram, pre-Facebook, pre-Discord, pre everything. She knew. She was like, you don't want to be caught like that. That's proof. She always had, she's alive. I don't know why I just put her in past tense. She's like very much doing very well. She always has a very interesting way of pushing me to be a little bit better, you know? And I think everybody has that. And my mom, who is not a risk taker at all, I don't know if Joyce has definitely taken some risks. She was a foxy lady. She still is. But she always has this way of being like, with Top Chef, when I was like, started to go over the pros and cons, she was like, forget about it. When David and I were about to move no, David asked me to move in with him, and I called my mom because, like, I don't know, what else do you do? She was like, I say go for it. My mother is not afraid to tell her children to take risks. But it's something that propels me forward. And I don't think, and David and I talk about it a lot, I don't think very much about the payoff on anything. I think when it came to TV, people have said several times, they're like, we can tell you of being on TV, but I'm very uncomfortable with what happens afterwards.
Right.
In a cute way. Also, I think my chair has like slowly been sinking.
Oh no.
I'm so low.
You're barely like in the frame of the video chat that we are on.
I'm doing construction in my house, guys. Just yeah, but it's just something to think about that I think about a lot. We moved to Maine because I was bullshitting.
Well, that was have I ever told you about how Molly and I ended up in California?
No.
So we had been dating and we were living together in Maryland, and within like the span of a week or two of each other, I was let go from the job that I was working at. And our landlord who owned the place that we lived told us he was selling the building. And so
what a charmer.
So I didn't have a job and like a place to live within a very short amount of time of each other. And we were trying to figure out what to do, like just where to go. And Molly had friends who lived in San Diego who were like, I mean, you have a couch to crash on here if you want. And
how do two people sleep on a couch?
It was like a sectional, we had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wonder.
We had room. It was great. But yeah, we literally within a short amount of time and again, it was a complete leap of faith. We didn't know what we would do out here, but like there was something that felt right about it, of just like, let's get out of Maryland. Let's get to California. We have a place to stay. Let's do it. And we packed up my car and everything that could fit in the car. And we drove across the country with nothing on the other side except a place to sleep. And that was 6 years ago.
And Joel, I think what you just said, I become so incredibly career oriented that I forget how much of just life applies to this. And that is such a beautiful example. Like my career is my life. Your career as a podcaster is your life. But what a fucking sorry, everybody. What a beautiful moment though, to be like this. I struck gold in this moment.
Yeah.
Because, Joel, I wouldn't pin you for LA.
I mean, it was one of those things, I'm very interested in the entertainment industry. Like, I love writing. So like, there's things here that appeal me, but I never had it in my head to live in LA. Like I didn't think that I was going to move to LA, but then
I didn't think I was going to move to Maine. So, dude, I totally got you.
Yeah. But I think it was just that thing of like, I don't know, like what is like, to me, it felt like the universe was saying your time here is up. Like we don't know how to make it more clear, but both your job and your place of living are pushing you out into the world. And so
run, little Joel, run.
And it was kind of that thing of like, I much exactly like what you're saying. I didn't think it through very much. It wasn't like, I think if I had stopped to think about it, if either one of us had, we would have chickened out. But it was just sort of like, I don't know, this is the time to do something big,
Right. And, I don't think there's any wrong time. It's just, you got to test your intuition, like you gotta make sure it feels good. And if it does, you go for it.
Yeah. I'm always interested in people too. Like, I mean, a person that I truly love too is Anthony Bourdain, who, like we think of Anthony Bourdain now a certain way because we know Anthony Bourdain, the guy, the chef, the travel chef, who did all this stuff. But he was he was in his 40s, right? Like he was,
right.
Yeah, like he had been just a chef his whole life who was working in New York kitchens, who wrote an article that was published that then turned into Kitchen Confidential, and that was very late in his life that all of that happened.
Right. And Joel, I don't know if this feels the same way to you, but as I get older, I'm 37 now, I'm starting to realize that age is not as important as I thought it was.
Well, right. I think a lot is put on milestones, aging and milestones and where you should be.
I do love a milestone. I know.
But I mean, like, this idea of if you're not at such and such a place, like, I don't know if you have that with your
absolutely
career or whatever.
If you are not married with children by 30, you've failed. And you know what, everybody? I was not married and I still don't have children and I am doing quite A-okay.
Right. Yeah.
But you do. It's like this weird, like societal pressure, but it's also an internal pressure. And I don't think, because I thought when you reached 40, I had a very clear idea at like 13 what my life would look like. You know what I mean? Like I'd just be my mom and like not a flight attendant. I don't know. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, you have kids, you have a house. It looks exactly like my house growing up because I didn't, have any other reference. But I don't feel like if I become a billionaire at 50, I'm still going to be cool with that.
Yeah.
Like, would it have been better at 20? Probably. I'd probably be dead because I do just love to indulge. Like, it's probably better at 50.
Yeah. I mean, that is the other thing, too, is like, I do think there's a blessing to not, hitting it big when you're in your 20s because, yeah.
My God, I'd be broke.
Yeah,
and
I don't think most of us.
I thought I had it. Yeah. I thought I had it at 20. I just had it all together. I did not. But I am a lot more reckless spending money now than I was then. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But and then you hear people say age is just a number and you're like, bullshit. Like, it's not. It's so important. But it's just conflicting. I'm just going to go back and forth on this, but it's just conflicting thoughts. Like, if you hit success at 80, you're going to be less satisfied than had you hit it at 40? I don't think so. It's the same. You did it.
Yeah. And again, and that's why I think, like, again, to me, the one that Anthony Bourdain stands out, but there's countless other examples. You can always find those videos and stuff that so-and-so did this when they were there. But it's like, I think what's so interesting, too, is that, like, we just tend to remember people by whenever it started. Like, we just, in everyone's mind. Yeah.
Except for what he wrote in his book, what he was like in his 20s.
Right. Exactly. Like,
now as we're getting older and stuff, to have other people in our age group reach level of successes, that's super cool because you just have like a role model you can relate to.
Or even like,
and which is why I like Bethany Frankel. I don't particularly care for her character that she plays on these shows. I don't watch them. I don't drink Skinny Girl margaritas. Obviously, I guess that's a bad example, but I don't wear her shapewear line, if you will. But I see this woman and she's 50, but I'm like, that gives me something to aspire for.
And I think, didn't they do one of those podcasts on her? But I also really am a fan of Christina Tozzi.
What a great example.
Yeah, from Milk Bar, who was very much like, I know I've listened to like a few different things with her, but just how she was kind of the person at like Momofuku and other places that was good at doing the books for different chefs. So
we listened to the same podcast.
Yeah, that's why I think it was that. Yeah. But yeah, it was sort of, she found this niche of like chefs aren't good at accounting, at like the office.
Yeah,
work.
It was like a whole not FAFSA. What was it called? OSHA plan.
That's what it was. OSHA. Yeah, it was like chefs aren't good at like OSHA compliance, but like that she was kind of like got to know all these big chefs in New York because she was the one who understood how to implement this required OSHA plan.
Everybody.
Yeah, and then along the way was making
she loved a cookie.
Yeah, was making amazing desserts while hanging out in the restaurants. Like,
yeah, and that leads me to the next point where it's like, is it a hobby or do you need an entire career shift? And it's like, dude, you don't really need anything. If nothing happens, I will be perfectly fine. My life is still pretty damn good.
Well, and I think that is, and it's something that we've definitely discussed before, and I feel pretty strongly about it. Like, I feel like there's such an American notion of that the things you do need to be, they need to be side hustles. They need to be businesses. You need to be, making money off of things instead of just like doing things because they make you happy.
I've recently been thinking a lot about how, let's assume you only have one life. Because I was and no, I'm not going to get like dark or anything, but for the past couple of months, I've been super, 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 super sick, and I didn't do anything. And as I laid in bed, I was just sort of like, am I just like wasting? Like life kind of got a bit of a perspective. And I was like, if I don't get to do this again, like, I don't know, it sucks. So it's given me perspective where I'm like, I gotta do. David and I have been trying to be tourists in our own state, because before we moved to Maine, I'd been here like 5 times, not to York, like I'd been to Portland twice, which is crazy. So, just living a little bit differently. It definitely gave me a different perspective.
Yeah, but I do just, things like, life can often be hard and challenging and we all get bogged down and stuff. But it's like, I think at least for myself, I've often realized that a lot of times it's just me talking myself out of trying something and then kind of. Yeah. And then taking the step back and being like, I don't know. Yeah. Play it through. Like what will happen? I have definitely failed at things. I've failed at a lot of things, but it's that. I don't know. Would you rather try it and fail or never know? Like, you don't want to spend your life wondering how it would have turned out.
Yeah. And I guess, Joel, when you took that risk, number one, or a different risk, and it didn't pay off, like, did you feel, I don't know, what happened? Did anything happen?
Well, that was, like, I actually, earlier in my life, like in my 20s, I did move to Boston and I lived there for like 2.5 years. And I ended up coming back. Like I never really made the connections there. I never really figured out Boston. It didn't feel like it was for me. And then I just moved back to Maryland.
Right. Which you're like a failure. I just recently was in cahoots with Food Network about like a show where I would be like a contestant, whatever. And it didn't work out. I actually never heard back from them. And I have no regrets because going through the process was kind of cool.
Right.
Like it didn't help nor hinder.
Yeah. And you never know too. You hear all kinds of stories like you didn't get this show, but you talk to the people at Food Network, you right. interacted with them. Yeah, they might, the next show, they might go, who we should bring back was Stephanie. Like, we really liked her.
Exactly.
Even, so you never know the things that will pay off.
You never know who you're saying hi to in the grocery store, unless you're not like me and you don't say hi to everybody in the grocery store. We were just there and I was like, I should just be a greeter. Like Joel and I've talked about it. If I had a second job that was not like, just like supplemental income, but I enjoyed it, it would be a greeter at a hospital.
By the way, you would like the West Coast for that reason, because it took me a long time to get used to in California, but everyone will just talk to you. And I because I had this East Coast kind of bias, like having lived in Baltimore and everything, where like I was used to if someone came up to you, they were, I don't know, there was something sketchy about it.
Their space.
Yeah. Either they're going to pick a fight with you or like there's something,
That's what happened when I moved to Colorado. I called my mom and I was like, Mama, these people are waving to me.
Yeah.
I was like,
But But yeah, it's just that people, I've gotten used to it now, but people just come up to you and they'll just start talking to you. And I find myself, it does, like, it gets infectious.
It opens you up.
Yeah, where like now I find myself asking people, like when I'm getting a coffee, I'll ask the barista just like, how's your day going? Or like,
Right. And genuinely mean it. Like, what a nice trickle effect. I guess when it comes, if it doesn't pay off, now I'm not talking about like if you're investing in the stock market and it doesn't pay off because we're like, oh, take a risk. Like, look at how cool it could become. I don't know shit about that. I'm just saying, like, sort of just replaying the sentiment I just had. Like, if this is my only chance to get to see things and make memories and work and help people and whatnot, like, I should probably take every single one.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a really bad idea.
Also, by the way, if you wanted to, do you even know how to buy a stock? like if you were like, I want to invest, I don't like. So.
Robinhood.
Okay, we're right.
Robinhood is an online app. I think they.
Yeah, it's like, are we getting ad money?
Robinhood, holler at your girl.
Yeah.
Robinhood, you can go on and you can buy and trade and stuff. Now, after that, I understand jack shit about what's going on.
But yeah, no, I just have that too, where I'm like, when people talk about the stock market and buying stock, I'm like, I don't even know how to. That is such a foreign thing to me.
I was creeping on this girl the other day. On, was it Instagram or Facebook? One of them. I was really trying to get deep into what she does. And, I'm diving and they're in hedge funds, whatever that is. And, it's like talks about all of the places you can do hedge fundy things. And then it's AI and I'm like artificial intelligence. And I obviously immediately think that means Martians.
Oh, not robots, Martians, you think?
Martians.
Yeah.
That's where I.
Yeah. No, Marvin the Martian. He was big into stocks.
I had a pair of Converse with Marvin the Martian on them.
But I think that I'm not going to speak for you, but I have a feeling that we line up kind of the same way on this, which is like, I'll always take a chance on experiences more than, like just try, doing something because I want to have the experience. I want to try something. I want to shake up my life. And I'm not someone who's like, I'm not Mark Cuban. I'm not going to invest my life savings in a business.
We are not going to be the next Mark Cubans. He decided at a very young age he was going to be a billionaire.
I don't even want to be a billionaire. It seems like I don't think I'd change
I'd change like a lot of things about my life. Like I'd have really nice carpets and like a nice car. Pretty simple girl though.
Yeah, I think I'd be good
I'd have
with
a housekeeper.
I think like, yeah, I don't know. I'm LA, so I'm like, I don't know, $1 million, $2 million. $2 million. $2 million could probably
$2 million.
Yeah. And then I'm good. Then I'm walking away. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really spend a ton of money. That being said, I bought so much shit today, so that's not a good example. Oh my God, you know what I bought though?
What's that?
I went to this place called Lost Coast in Kittery, and they had 3 cookbooks, and one's this like super old Hawaiian thing. Hold on, you talk. I'm going to get it.
Okay. Super old Hawaiian cookbook. I'm excited.
150 traditional island recipes. But look at this bad Larry.
Ooh.
Doesn't that look good?
That does look good.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. Guys, I'm back on my cookbook thing. Thank you to everybody who responded. It came out in 1965. Like,
the cover looks very 1965.
Korean broiled meat. Yes. Oh my God, I'm so excited to read this. That responded to my cookbook inquiries. I just redid my bedroom and put a bookshelf in here because, and I'm being completely honest, and people are going to think I'm batshit crazy. I missed having my cookbooks in my bedroom. But
yeah, you like to read some cookbooks before bed. I get it.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm like surrounding myself with creativity. But now I've got this whole bookshelf because the downstairs one, that's the downstairs cookbooks. So we're starting again. So if anybody, just slide into my DMs with any recs.
How do you differentiate a downstairs cookbook from an upstairs cookbook?
They have moved at least 3 apartments.
Okay.
Downstairs cookbook.
So
We've carried them up many stairs.
They're
core.
The core. And then the upstairs, they're more conditional. You're seeing how
they're like, did I need to buy the cookbook Pride and Pudding?
Pride and Pudding? Is that like
Pride
a pun?
Pride and Pudding by Regula Swin. It is the history of British puddings, savory and sweet.
Okay, we should do a whole show one day about the British, like their use of the word pudding, because isn't pudding just everything in England?
Pudding is a lot of things.
I think
it needs like eggs or some sort of dairy or something like that.
The way they talk about pudding and the way that they're like savory pastries and stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff.
I'm down.
We got to do an English. We got to get a British person on to explain British food.
So down for this. I know a British person, but she's really busy. But she's really British.
Is she more busy or British? Like what?
She's more... I would say 50-50. Ophelia, if you're listening to this, just know that you're my British person.
Well, speaking of...
Her name's Ophelia. Like, that's really British.
Yeah, I mean, that's Shakespearean.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, actually.
I do love that name. That's a good name. But no, I believe, speaking of cookbooks, that you had a recommendation.
I do. Okay, so because I've bought 22 cookbooks in the past 5 days, I wanted to do, I'm just starting to crack into them. So I buy this cookbook and it's got this like emo-y, nerdy, but like I'm trying dude on it. You know what I mean? Like he's got long hair, but he's got like fashion glasses. I don't know, whatever. His name's Joshua Weissman. Hi. It's called An Unapologetic Cookbook. And like I break into it and I'm like, all right, let's see what we're doing it with this. And like the first one I look at is like ricotta pancakes and I'm like, oh great, and steak sandwiches, and I'm like, this is not that interesting, whatever. But then because I've been on this bread kick, he has this section in the book that goes over feeding a starter and whatnot that is so eloquently written and makes so much sense, even though the science doesn't, but like the way he puts it, you're not going to mess it up. I think it's worth it.
Are you at that stage with your bread making?
We're not there.
No, you don't have a starter yet. That always feels really intimidating. And then I just imagine. I just don't understand
why I'm not like a thrower outer of food. So like you have to throw away the food. That doesn't.
Yeah, I also just rock my world. I get these like Little Shop of Horrors images in my head that the starter is gonna.
I Love Lucy when she made the bread and it like comes out of the oven.
Yeah.
Anyways, the other good thing about this cookbook is that if you start like looking at the nitty gritty recipes, like the aiolis and the bases for soups and stuff, they're really impressive.
Nice.
So I give this cookbook my vote for this week's cookbook, Joshua Weissman, An Unapologetic Cookbook.
All right. Yeah, I like it.
Thanks.
I think that's it, though. I think we did it.
I think that's it, everybody. So don't hesitate to contact Joel and I at Stephanie Knows Some Shit to kind of talk about, I think that maybe next week, if anybody wants to share their story of luck.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, we would love to hear.
Share a few.
Yeah.
I think that would be really interesting because though Stephanie Knows Some Shit isn't a podcast to necessarily create inspiration, we do want to cause it. So we would love to share some more examples of that.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. If people have stuff that they did and work, personal, whatever, big, small, I think we're open to all of it. Yeah.
We think it's cool no matter what.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely send us those. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for us.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Stay tuned for next week where we talk about something else that's going to be super cool and just knowledgeable. And just remember as you head on into the week, you've got this.
Stephanie Knows Some Shit is hosted by Stephanie Cmar and me, Joel Murphy, and produced by me. If you enjoyed the show, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, and instead of a review, tell us about a meal that you ate or made recently. We'd love to read about it.
This is Philip.
And Katie.
And Bridget. And we're three friends who like movies.
Especially movies of yore, when we were small and everything seemed awesome.
Now we're revisiting these bright, shining beacons of our youth and figuring out if they are for real.
So sit back and relax and revisit the best,
the worst,
and everything in between from the 80s and 90s.
And find out,
is it for